You're listening to the Secret Muse Society, where we pull out the things we keep hidden about ourselves. What are the secrets that actually hold us back from the connection we crave? And what happens when we tap into the inspiration we have to offer the world? I'm your host, authenticity coach Karen Choi. Let's dive in together. Hello, Muse. Are you a lover or a fighter? This is episode 36 of the Secret Muse Society, where I want to dive into the archetypes, the authentic lover and the authentic fighter in all of us. I used to believe that I was a lover, not a fighter, and something came up into my life that totally shifted my perspective and helped me to embrace more of the fighter. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it was the balance that I so needed. It was the outlet and expression. It was a new inspiration. And the inspiration really was this untapped part of me. Hence, the Secret Muse Society, that's what we're all about, right? Is tapping into those undiscovered parts of ourselves that actually wake us up and provide so much inspiration and awe and brighten life up. So I'm so glad you're here, and I hope what you get out of this will accompany you on your authentic journey of becoming more of your fullest self and reaching your higher, fullest potential. Shall we dive in? Now, there's no episode here without a little bit of a song. So what would a love song be? Like, what is our lover archetype song? I have to admit, I haven't thought of it until now, but lovers in a dangerous time. Why is that the first song that popped into my head? Okay, there we are. And what about the fighter? Chicka 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 chung dun 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 dun. All right, so we've got team lovers in a dangerous time and our fighters. Chicka 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 chung. Which one are you more of? Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you for lovers? I would say for me, for about half a year ago, I would say I was like an 8 lover and a 2 fighter. 80% lover, 20% fighter. And now, 6 months later, I think I'm more of I think I'm like 60-40 or maybe even 50-50 of lover and fighter. 60 fighter, 40 lover. Things have changed on this scale. And I think it's a really fun way to explore yourself and where you are versus where you've been and where you are and where you're going to go. I know that sometimes authenticity is a hard thing to kind of measure in terms of your growth, but just I hope you stay with me here. We are like transcending these types of physical measurements, and it's really about an ebb and flow in the present moment. So when I think about how we measure authenticity in terms of lover and fighter, it's like, what part are you exploring? What part are you developing new skills and practicing and making stronger after you've acknowledged it? What part of you is not a weakness, but it's actually just a strength, an underused strength? Okay, let's dive in. About 6 months ago, it was June, and my very good friend Alina, shout out Alina, it was her birthday. And she called me up and said, "Hey Karen, I've got the day off. Are you free? Do you want to hang out? I was thinking of going to a yoga class." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to go to yoga with you." Wonderful. I mean, I'm always up for a nice stretch, some meditation, and breathing. And in like seconds later, I got a text from her. She said, "Actually, would you be up for boxing? I really need to get some aggression out." And I thought, oh, wow, that's quite a shift from yoga to boxing. And I was like, sure, I'm all in. And up to that point, I had never really considered boxing as a thing that I even was remotely interested in trying. But for my friend's birthday, yes, 100%. So we both live in the same neighborhood in Toronto, and we both started looking for boxing gyms, and we both found the same boxing gym, and it's called Fitco, and they offer fight-inspired interval training, right? Like for those of you who do HIIT workouts, high intensity interval training, this is fighter-inspired interval training, and it's run by father-son duo Jason and Kian, and who are both kickboxers and boxers. They are champions and trainers, and this has been their life. And so they have this gym together where they do fighter training. So Alina and I go to our first class together one Monday at noon, and we were blown away. You walk into the class, and each person has their own square to work out because we're still post-pandemic times. And Jason says, okay, everyone grab some dumbbells, grab yourself some boxing gloves, set yourself up in front of a bag, and we're ready to go. And so Jason had a full circuit workout ready to go. And I'll tell you, I knew it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be tiring. I didn't know my ass was going to get kicked so bad. It was, for me, my first time in the gym in over 2 years, but I got addicted because punching a bag brought out something in me I didn't know needed to come out. And so Alina changed my life. It changed her life that day on her birthday. It set her up for a full year of like all these kinds of shifts, which is her story to tell. But I'm so thankful that she invited me because that day in June also changed my life for the better. Fighter training has been so much fun. I have been aiming to go at least 2 times a week for crazy workout and so much motivation. And every single class I go to, I learn something from either Jason or Kian or about myself or about life. And it has just been a gift that keeps on giving. So a person who used to be 80% love is now a 40% lover, and who used to only be 20% fighter and is now 60% fighter. I think that's a pretty impactful change. I'll tell you. 6 months ago, my husband, Yusik, said to me, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. This is an ancient Chinese proverb. Let me tell you one more time so you can hear it. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And guess what my response was to that saying? Curl up in arms. I'm like, what? We need warriors and gardeners. What do you mean? It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. We don't always need people warring when there's people trying to make peace and feed each other and nurture each other. And then that piece about being a gardener in a war. Well, in a war, we also need gardeners. We need gardeners to be feeding people. We need gardeners to be tending to the land. And my perspective on this saying has totally changed because of fighter training. And here's why. One of the things that I really learned from Jason Batiste is this. He, in every class, for example, there are these assault bikes. Assault bikes. It sounds so aggressive. We're on these stationary bikes, which show you, how many seconds how much time you've been on the bike, what distance you've covered. And another number that I've really learned to take significance for is the watts, how much power you're putting in. And in a recent class, Kian had the assault bikes as part of the circuit. And each time, there was 3 circuits. And the first time we got to the circuit, he's like, okay, remember the last time you were on the assault bike, what was your highest watt number? Well, right now I want you to beat that. In 20 seconds, you're going to beat your last watts. So just pay attention to that number. And my past number was like 380 something. That was my highest number. I thought, wow, that was hard. So I pushed, and I got up to 420 in that 20 seconds. That felt so good. Then we did another full circuit of different intervals, like punching on the bags and also strength and core work on the floor, strictly body weight stuff. And then came back to that assault bike circuit. And he's like, okay, now this is it. The last one didn't count. This is all that matters. What was your last score? And you're going to beat it now. You're going to make this one your best. So I was like, what? Now I have to beat 420? Okay, I'm going to give it all I've got. And I push. I closed my eyes because I was pushing so hard. And then I opened my eyes and I saw 460. Okay, I beat my 420. That felt so good. And again, we went through another set of intervals of body weight exercise and punching the bags, doing all kinds of different patterns, hook, jab, cross, punch, all kinds of, it's so much fun. Your brain doesn't even have time to think because you're just trying to get coordinated and just put all your effort into that one punch followed by one other punch. And so we came up to that next interval and this was it. This was the final interval. I was already tired from doing the first circuit, the second circuit. Now we're at the third circuit and the assault bike piece came at the end. How am I going to beat my last best? It seemed impossible. We got on the bike and I was just like, okay, I got 20 seconds to give it my all, see if I could beat 460 something. Boom, 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 boom. I opened my eyes. I got to 460 and I was like, okay, just keep pushing. My legs started to feel like they were going to give out and I opened my eyes again and 480 something. Oh my gosh. And this comes up every single time. Like, you don't know how you can push yourself through. Fighter training has really taught me how we just focus on the present moment, 20 seconds at a time. You can make that 20 seconds your absolute best 20 seconds. So what is possible? It's just such a cool feeling. And so, like even when we're measuring being more of our authentic selves, or perhaps you have a personal growth goal, whether it is to be a better listener for your partner or to be more patient and present with your family, like think of it as 20 seconds at a time. Like say you are working on a proposal or a presentation and you're practicing, you're like, okay, these 20 seconds, how can I make this my best? Same with this podcast, like right now, here where we are together, how can we be present for each other for just 20 seconds, 20 minutes, 20 days, right? Like think of your life, your goal in really small intervals and bites. Try to make it so you're as present as possible. That's one thing that fighter training has taught me, how to be fully present. And another thing that fighter training has really taught me is this. I love this saying that Jason says in almost every class, actually. Like when you're starting to get tired and you're ready to give up, he says, fighter training starts when you want to give up. I remember when I was giving birth to my babies at home. And, when you read labor stories about women going through labor, they say that you reach a point where you just want to give up and you don't think that it's it's just too hard to push anymore. And they also say at that moment, your baby's almost, you're going to meet your baby soon. And I remember when I was giving birth to my baby at home with my midwives. And at one point I yelled, I said, I feel like I'm trying to land the Starship Enterprise. And it's because my husband and I had watched the new Star Trek movie the night before. And then we went out for Harvey's hamburgers. And during labor, all I could see were the flashes of light. That was the director's signature artistic thing, I guess. I'm sorry, I don't have the word, but light rays, light flashes. And that's all I could see while I was giving birth. And I got to a point when she was crowning, I think, and I was like, I give up. I feel like I'm landing the Starship Enterprise and I can't do this. Then I also remembered, this is the moment. You push through this and you will meet your baby soon. And so it just immediately connects with that whenever Jason says fighter training starts when you want to give up. When you want to give up, that's when you have to push even more. And as a lover, I totally believe in showing yourself compassion and resting and knowing when you need to stop. But I believe that as a lover, for your goal, for what you've committed to, for the person you know you are becoming and what you're willing to put into it, you can also push yourself. And to that next point, when you want to give up, you can push yourself a little more. And I don't mean like push yourself to burnout. Maybe you push yourself to rest and take a break from it so that you can come back with renewed energy. Or maybe you push yourself through discomfort, like a presentation or having to have a hard conversation. You push yourself through when you don't want to have that, when you want to give up, but you know that that conversation is going to make the difference. It's going to be part of your breakthrough. Then the fighter training starts there. And so fighter training, putting on gloves, punching it out always reminds me that you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that everyday training, it's kind of like mindfulness training or meditation. You know, in meditation, we practice observing our thoughts come and observing our thoughts go. Observing our thoughts come and choosing not to hold on to them, just seeing them for what they are, finding the peace, connecting with our breath and letting them go. And how that meditation practice, when it's quiet, when you are in a state where you are calm, that is just training you so that you can recall that memory, so you can recall that muscle when it is loud and stressful and you can't find even a sliver of air to breathe. That's when you click in that meditation muscle. And so fighter training on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays is like, it's just exercising this muscle for me that when I want to give up, I push further. And again, the push isn't always active or physical. The push can be, I'm going to push myself to give myself a break, you know? I'm going to push myself on some compassion and forgiveness and some grace. That is the push. I'm not going to give up on this project, but I know I need this right now. That's the lover and the fighter coming into play, right? Oh, okay. So these are the things that I've learned in fighter training. And I just want to bring up some of these lover and fighter archetypes to see where you might be at in your journey. The warrior is what I see as the fighter archetype, you know, the samurai, the soldier, the advocate. And when the warrior archetype is light in us, we have fierce clarity. We know what our purpose is and we have action and we know that we have resilience, right? And when the warrior fighter archetype in us is dark, we're feeling threatened. We feel like we need to abandon our mission and values. And what I want to bring up from this is like, the important thing about the warrior is when you see yourself fighting, when you see yourself as a soldier, as an advocate, that is showing you what matters to you, right? And when you find yourself fighting, I want you to see how is that aligned? What value is coming up? And is that aligned? Knowing this, having this awareness, acknowledging it can help you realize in a moment, is this worth fighting for right now? Is this a battle that I just don't need to suit up for? And perhaps it is. And you really get geared up and you have to tap into that clarity. Like, I want to read for you this piece from The Wild Unknown Archetypes by Kim Kranz about the warrior. because when this comes up for you, there's a lot of wisdom here. So we often envision the warrior as an armored figure with sword in hand moving blindly toward battle. Yet the deeper aspects of this archetype bring us face to face with death itself. The warrior stands precariously at the edge of life and death, trusting the eternal to guide the sword's blade. The warrior's work requires presence, alignment, and purpose. If and when the warrior loses its center, meaningless confrontations and violence are their default response. So when this appears, it is important to question the battle at hand. It is likely a great one with deep roots and long-standing tensions. The actions you take will stay with you long after the dust settles, so choose wisely, brave one. As you draw your sword, realign with the eternal wisdom within, then surrender to the battle. I think that this has so much wisdom for the warrior in us. Like, what are we fighting for? What is important to us? And if we find ourselves fighting aimlessly and just reacting, we need to step back and say, hey, what is this? Is this who I need to be right now? The key things here is, without a true purpose, a warrior is lost. And maybe for me, for example, when I didn't know that I had the fighter in me, it's because I didn't really know what my true purpose was, or what do I stand for, or even realizing that I was lost. What are you willing to rise in the name of? What are you advocating for? What do you need to take action for? What is just so meaningful to you? Are you fighting for your family? Are you fighting for freedom? Are you fighting for social justice? What are you fighting for? And so for those of us who feel like we're the lovers, we're the carers, we're the nurturers, we actually have to fight for what we care for. We have to fight for our family. We have to fight for our freedom. We have to fight for those social values that are so important to us. We have to fight for the vision of inclusion and compassion and equity that we believe in. One where the world is open and holds space for us all, that where we can bring our strengths to the table and it's valued and it's acknowledged and it's appreciated. And together, all these authentic selves, this is what we have to fight for, is a more authentic world. So that's the warrior, and how I didn't realize that the warrior was in me until I realized that I had something to fight for, something that was so important to me. And now I want to read for you about the lover from the same book. The lover. Where does the lover come from? The lover is led by the heart. What is devoted? What is beloved? When the lover in us is light, we are connected, we are expanding, we are in devotion, we are experiencing awe. When the lover in us is dark, we're indulgent, we are attached, we are obsessed. What state is the lover in you right now? Here's the description written by Kim Cran. Pulsing through the heart of the lover is gratitude. The lover appreciates and experiences the world through the senses, reveling in beauty, song, art, music, sense, and sensuality. This is what I fight for. This energy awakens at the tip of our tongue when we taste the sweetness of honey, kiss a lover, or speak gentle words to a child. The lover lingers in foreplay, aroused not by getting there, but by the slow merging of self and other. This energy is usually experienced for short periods of time, as in order to feel it, we must be fully present and awake, with no expectations or rules about what should be. Rather, the lover is in awe of what the world presents, reveling in the glorious details, grateful to savor every last drop of life's offerings. This is what I fight for. What are you fighting for, Muse? And so this is why I wanted to bring up these two archetypes, these two parts of us, the lover and the fighter. Where might you be in balance? Where might you not be feeling in balance? Where do you want to lean into? Do you need to lean in more to your lover? Do you need to lean in more to your fighter? Do you see how they work together. When you know what you love, when you know what you value, you now have something to fight for. But that fight, we need to actually exercise those muscles. We can't always be focusing on our caring and nurturing. We have to learn how to fight. These are actually skills of pushing through, of taking rest, of standing up and not standing down, of not giving up when it's hard, of really leaning into the discomfort. That's the fighter. And the fighter allows all this beautiful lover piece to have its freedom, to have space and to grow. We really need both. The lover in me sees the lover in you. The fighter in me sees the fighter in you. Which skill are you feeling like has been kind of put on the sidelines because the other skill is stronger? It's kind of like legs, when you see those guys the gym thugs, who only work on their upper body, and you're like, dude, when's leg day? It's kind of like that. I mean, lover, when are you going to learn to fight for what you love? I don't know why this is coming up for me now, but when you're feeling threatened, we will have a natural fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. For me, as the person who was more lover, I would freeze. I would avoid in situations where I knew I had to speak up. I knew I had to stand up for what I believed in. I knew I had to say no and say yes to what was important. But I froze in that moment. And I've realized it's because I actually had to learn how to fight. I had to learn how to fight as not just a response, but as a muscle, as a strength. And it's not always going to be in like these threatening situations, but it's an interesting thing to consider, right? Like when you feel threatened, do you fight first? Then perhaps maybe it's time to actually lean more into the lover. I'm not saying avoid, but I'm saying maybe take a step back and observe and create some space between there instead of reacting and responding immediately. Some food for thought. From the lovers in a dangerous time. And jigga 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 jigga. You know what'd be fun? To hear, what are those called? A mix-up? Oh my gosh. What is it from that Pitch Perfect movie when they do a blend of two pieces of music? My brain is coming to a complete stop. If you remember this word, please send me a DM on Instagram. What is it called? The lover and the fighter. Your call to adventure right now is to explore the one of the lover or the fighter that you haven't been really leaning into. Acknowledge the one where you feel comfortable, you feel strong in, you feel, you know it inside out. And then what if we were to dabble and explore the side of you that hasn't been? Thank you so much for listening, dear Muse. Please let me know what you think. What might have inspired you, what insights you may have gotten from this episode. Reach out to me at Karen@KarenChoi.co by email, or you can reach me on Instagram at KarenChoi.co. I would love to hear from you, lovers and fighters. Until next time, be well, stay gold. Thank you for listening to the Secret Muse Society. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts to rate and review this podcast so other modern muses like you can find us too. I invite you to continue the conversation and connect with me on Instagram at KarenChoi.co. Join me next week for more secrets inspired by you. I'm Karen Choi. Until next time, stay gold.